WolfPunch.
The bears.
Oh, Mac is the one that can do that.
You can't do it?
I can't, what is like it just I don't know how Mac does it.
Yeah.
I don't either. I don't know how he does it.
I'm sorry that I didn't come prepared to do impressions of a sound on a trailer to a movie.
I forgive you.
That's not
I
what
don't.
I'm here for.
I'm hurt.
I'm here to eat Zane's candy.
Me too. I'm here to eat my candy as well.
Yeah.
WolfPunch.
Oh, we've been okay.
Yeah.
Annihilation. Let's talk about it. Today, we got me, Yazin, the best one.
Debatable.
Yeah, that's the best.
You're Kyle.
I'm eating candy right now.
You're Dan.
Hi.
You're Michael.
The best around.
You're Zane.
That's right.
WolfPunch. All right, let's do it.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Annihilation, starring Natalie Portman, made by the guy who made Deus Ex Machina.
Just Ex Machina.
Fuck, Ex Machina. It's a good movie. Anyway,
He just wanted to sound pretentious.
When doesn't he?
I always sound pretentious.
Not only the director of Ex Machina, he also wrote many films that Danny Boyle directed, such as 28 Days Later, Sunshine, Dread, and The Beach, but we're not going to really talk about that because that movie's whatever.
The beach.
Yeah.
What's the beach?
With DiCaprio?
The Leonardo DiCaprio
Beach,
movie
please,
from
let him talk.
19... Whatever. It's a mediocre movie. No one cares about it anymore. Moving on. So, this is a movie that no one's going to see. You probably haven't seen it. But hey, I kind of hope you do. It's a sci-fi horror film, even though it's not a movie for horror fans, because it doesn't play any tropes. It's more adult, kind of in vein of like thematically Blade Runner, but again, this is debatable getting onto things. So what the hell is it about? It's the future. A meteor comes down, and instead of giving everyone magical powers and wonderful economy magic like it did in Black Panther, it just gives people cancer. And also...
Super cancer.
Super cancer.
And it gives
yeah.
everything super cancer.
Yeah, it's,
walls.
Within like a radius.
It's body horror cancer
Wait,
radius.
was it
Okay.
said that there was a comet? Is that at the
Yeah, you
Yeah,
missed
the
the
thing?
I missed
okay.
the comment.
Yeah,
So,
I missed that.
anyways, the whole premise and setup for it is this comet comes down, strikes a lighthouse, and ever since then, there's been this shimmer, like basically a big dome that has grown out of it.
Looks like a big bubble.
Like when you
Yeah,
look
yeah,
at
it's
the
a
bottle, it has all the little colors in
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
If you're dripping dish soap
It's like,
down your hand
or like there's like oil in a puddle or something, and it's that rainbow effect. Yeah. It's that thing. Same
It's in
thing.
the trailer.
same
Tell
thing.
us more about the
Okay, so this area is slowly expanding outward little by little, and it's at the point where right now the government is able to contain it and keep it a secret, and they've been sending in expeditions to explore and find out what the hell is going on. I'm the only one, I think, that's read the book, so I'm not sure how much of that was in the movie, but this movie concerns the 12th expedition that goes in to explore it. All the previous ones ended in disaster, aside from the most recent one. Natalie Portman is a biologist who used to be in the military, and her husband, who's played by Oscar Isaacs, he's a soldier and was part of the last expedition. He returns at the beginning of the film, and he's not the person who originally went in there. He's almost severely PTSD. Figuratively speaking, yes, he's very reserved, almost doesn't know what to think or make of anything.
His organs are failing more than they did before he went in.
Yeah, and also he's vomiting up blood, and just not really 10 out of 10 when he's
Not
back.
holding it together.
So then Natalie Portman decides to enter the Shimmer, this Area X as they dub it, and find out what the hell is going on and see if she can find a cure for her husband. And that's the setup for the movie. It's kind of a straightforward, generic sci-fi setup, but the thing I personally enjoyed about it is the way it handled it. It bounces around a lot in the timeline. There's a framing device, and then it jumps back between, the history of the marriage, them going into Area X, and then going all around and informing you more about the main character, the biologist, Lena, Natalie Portman's character. Lena. That's another thing that, I'm kind of it's different for me because I read the book. None of the characters have names. It's just, that's the biologist, that's the psychologist, that's the anthropologist.
That sounds stupid.
Really?
Wow.
I don't know.
Yazid is not a fan of horror and subtlety, so things that have nuance are stupid to him.
Sorry. Okay, well, so we just saw this movie this past weekend, some of us just now. Dan, obviously, you really.
I feel like I'm very predisposed to liking this movie because I'm a huge fan of Alex Garland's work. I think it was during the press tour that he was talking about Ex Machina. Someone's like, "What are you going to do next?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't know. I read the manuscript for this book coming out called Annihilation." And I was like, "I never heard of that. Like, let's check it out." So I read the book like 2 years ago, and I was like, "That's fucking sick. They're making a movie out of it." And then I've been like slowly waiting for it. So I've been like waiting and waiting to like get as much information. And then like the studio has been. The studio is basically Paramount Pictures that released the film is ashamed of this. Like it did bad in test screenings. They kept pushing the date back. They're not even releasing it in theaters outside of the U.S. It's going straight to Netflix. And given its box office take, I mean, I don't want to say they were wrong, but yeah, it is. It's not a straightforward film that I think a lot of people will go in and leave feeling satisfied from.
Do you know what the original release date for the movie was?
It was I want to say around November. 2017.
See, Zane had a theory that this was supposed to be released earlier this month as marketing for Valentine's Day.
Because there's so many goddamn flowers in this fucking movie.
But it turns out you were wrong.
I was.
Did that bother you?
No, I was
It
just...
challenged his masculinity to see 5 women in a bunch of flowers, and he was like, "What is this shit?"
I mean, I guess it is worth noting. This is I've heard this like compared to like Predator or something like that.
Oh, what the fuck?
Or maybe Aliens. I'm not sure what movie.
No, we were
It's a
talking...
stretch.
It was...
Like, if you're gonna compare it to anything, you're gonna compare it to like Stalker or something.
Or like
I would say it reminds me of a lot of earlier like sci-fi or horror movies, but it never feels like it's aping them. Like there are parts of this that remind me of like
The
Thing or Alien or Aliens, and like even pretty much any like 80s, like even just a little bit like it reminded me of Reanimator when the guy's like organs are moving because that like happens at the end.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Of Reanimator from what 1985.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Exactly.
But
yeah, I mean, I guess it's worth noting that this is like an it's kind of you have this action crew of 5
crew
scientists, sort
Fox
of.
Force 5,
and they're all and they're all women, so it is a women-led action horror sci-fi, and
I think that's the problem right there.
women.
oh my god,
Not the women.
guys, let's hear them out.
No,
We just lost all
action
female
horror
listeners.
sci-fi. Not the women. The women are fine. They're all rating it. Action horror.
The way you set that up.
Yeah, that was.
Poor timing
That's
on
the
my
problem
part.
right there. Let women
Let him
lead your
finish.
business.
Let him finish.
Poor timing on my part. I'm saying action horror sci-fi. I liked the movie, but it did not know what it wanted to be. It needed to go all in on one of those 3 things, and it didn't. And that is what kind of didn't... It was a good movie, but it would have been a great movie if it would have picked one.
Is that how you feel about The Thing?
I've never seen The Thing.
I mean, there's aspects of that argument I would agree with to an extent. If it like toned back some of like the monster like kind of horror elements of it and made it more like cerebral and like psychological horror, like everyone second guessing each other and diving, because the whole thing they go in further. This is a minor spoiler because it happens probably in the first third of the movie. It's revealed that the previous expedition, some of them gone crazy and killed each other, but then they also noticed that things are changing. Like the biology of the life forms in there are basically, I don't want to say crossbreeding, but they're being mixed.
Yes,
So-
they are crossbreeding.
And
Essentially,
it goes to the point that even the characters notice that they themselves are changing and losing grips of their own conscious mind and being. And that's an aspect of it because they're like, well, we just got to get out of here. We got to figure out what's going on and then get back home as fast as possible because they might not be the same people to leave as when they went in.
Which is why I'm saying you go in on some 4-wheelers and you just plow right through it, you know?
I mean, that's not a bad
I've
idea.
had dumber ideas.
They forgot.
all right.
Like,
After
the
that
first couple
redneck
days.
idea.
I'll get in that shimmer.
I mean, but straight from the beginning, they get in, and the first scene after it ends with them walking through the shimmer field or whatever, they're making camp, and they wake up, and they're like, we've just gone through, was it like 3 days worth of rations or something?
Yeah.
And none of them have any memory of it. So right from the get-go, it's almost like it's an imperfect recollection of events that are happening because none of the characters really have a full grip on what is happening outside of in the moment itself.
Yeah, see, like, I thought that was really interesting because when I was first watching it, and, like, you see them walk in, and then the next time you see them inside, like, Padme's crawling out of her tent, and I was like, what the hell? We didn't see them, like, first experience this. We're just coming in on them waking up from camp. And then, like, it was interesting because the characters were, like, they felt the same way. So, like, that was cool. At first, it was like, I had that complaint ready in the barrel, and I was like, no, this movie's going to be doing some different things.
Yeah.
And I don't really agree. Like, I don't think of it as an action movie on any level. So I don't think that
It's got some action.
It has action in it.
The same way I personally don't think of it as a horror movie. There's beats of action and there's beats of horror.
Sure.
Like, there's one or two traditional jump scares and some grotesque violence that happens throughout it.
Yeah, it's primarily a sci-fi movie.
Yeah. Which is weird because it's marketed as a horror movie. Because I tried to look up one of the trailers.
Well, that's
that
because
played
horror
before
is
the
more
movie.
marketable.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, this was considered a horror movie. I never would have thought that.
You know, I mean, you might not think of it as like, to me, one of the things that, you see, it actually doesn't surprise me that, Dan, that you enjoyed it. 'Cause something you've told me before is that something that you really, I mean, I enjoyed it too, but something that you really enjoy about movies is tone.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things the movie did best was establishing tone.
Like, if a movie can nail tone and aesthetics and not be blatantly stupid, I can love it alone on those aspects.
Right. Like
Don't Breathe.
Like the thing
Yes,
that
I love Don't Breathe.
like the thing that Kyle, you just mentioned, that they wake up and then we don't get to see them experiencing the shimmer for the first time. We sort of wake up and then it's like, oh, why are we doing it this way? It's like, and they're all disoriented. You kind of share that disorientation in that you and the characters are both like, right off the bat, you're confused. Like, they went into the shimmer and now they don't know how long exactly they've been there. They don't know what's happening, but it's starting to fuck with them psychologically. And they've lost their sense of direction and all that. And I mean, another thing is, it's actually kind of a scary movie. The screaming bear.
That scene was phenomenal. I
knew Kyle would love it.
I had a huge grin on my face that entire time, and I just there was this group of girls sitting up behind me, and they were just gasping. Like, when it was over, one of them asked the other, like, "Are you okay?" Like, it was just, there were parts of this movie that were graphic or creepy, and it was a fun audience to watch it with, because I heard a lot of audience participation in a good way, where people were squirming in their seats and looking away. And I guess this sounds like a bad endorsement, looking away from the movie.
Well, no, but this is that reaction. That's
Right. And I think that's something like Zane, I know you did not enjoy this movie, but something that I was actually thinking of. I wasn't sure if you were in the theater, but while we were watching this movie, I was thinking, oh man, Zane must be freaking out, because I know you hate seeing needles in
That part,
being poked.
yeah. Okay, the part where he that dude open. That part
on the
was
video.
So I asked Zane, when we got out of the theater, I was like, "Did you watch that whole scene?" And he was like, "No, of course not." And he was like, "I'm surprised you didn't see me cower away," because he was sitting right in front of me, and I was like, I kept my eyes locked on him the whole time. I thought it was amazing.
Well, I think probably establishing this scene for context for our listeners, what happens in it is it's their first. They find a video card from a previous expedition that Natalie Portman's husband was a part of, and so they watch it on a tiny little handheld camera. And in it, they see it's a group of soldiers, and one of them is tied to a chair, and then her husband then takes a knife and starts cutting his stomach open. And then once he pulls away the flesh of the stomach and then inserts his hand into what you think are the guts, but then it zooms in and it's like electric eels or worms.
It looks like some type of
it's unidentifiable. Yeah, it's never
tentacles or something.
Yeah, it's really weird.
So
cool.
from that point forward, what starts off as slightly disorienting becomes, again, this is going back to tone, it becomes kind of horrifying. Is the sense that all of them are being manipulated by the environment.
Yeah.
All of them, and it's to an extent where they aren't, there's really no, it's something that is a really tricky territory for me with horror movies. So in one sense, if the characters are just totally fucked, then there's nothing to watch. You're just watching people who are doomed. On the other hand, the idea that the shimmer, the environment that they're in, is sort of assaulting them and changing them on kind of an unseen level, and reconstructing, and so that sort of horror aspect really punches up the discomfort.
Yeah, the way it's displayed, it gradually elevates. Where it's when they're first in there, there's disorienting things, and then they realize that their body is changing, and they don't know what sets that off, how that happens, when it's going to happen to them, and then just critters start getting at him too. Like, things just escalate gradually.
Critters.
What would you call them?
So
Not critters.
So Michael, the thing you mentioned earlier, where you were saying like, oh, I don't know if it knew which one wanted to be like, I can see that, but on the other hand, I don't know which one of those things I would really sacrifice, because the sort of the psychological horror of like we could be being mutated, and we probably are, and we might end up with like our intestines slithering around. That's fucking creepy. It makes me feel uncomfortable the whole time. But also,
I didn't care.
the monster.
You cowered at the description of it. Just
Yes, I get it. The visual and like the idea of it is gross, but I didn't give like that. The point that you're making right now, I didn't give a shit about.
I think I want to come back.
Movie.
I want to come back to that because I think there might be a good reason for that.
Sure.
you hate women.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what I'm going. No,
I don't like the mutation story because I hate women.
Yeah, did you watch the new Ghostbusters, Zane?
Goddamn.
No. Did you?
Stop
Okay.
all of this. Okay. But also like the monster story. I thought that was. I mean, the weird, crazy alligator shark was cool. But then the screaming wolf bear.
That bear.
Let's talk about the screaming wolf
fuck?
bear, because that is the thing that I feel like I read some things like user reviews on different websites, and that's like one of the big things that resonated with people as being like, what the fuck was that kind of deal. So it gets to the point 2/3 of the way through the movie. We're going into minor spoiler territory, so if something you're concerned about, now's the time to tune out.
Right.
But listen to us again next time.
Listen to us after you watch the movie, because it's worth watching in the week it's going to be in theaters.
I mean, we can just talk about the bear. We don't have to
We'll talk about
too
the
much
bear,
about the
yeah.
context. of it.
But basically, 3 of the main characters are tied to chairs, and they're unable to escape. And then all of a sudden they hear one of the other people from their expedition that they thought had died, that was with them earlier. They hear her screaming outside, and they're like, "The fuck is that?"
And the person that tied them up runs out to
Runs out to check, and then you just hear like basically like a blood curdling scream from her, and you don't know what the fuck happens. Then the next thing that happens is big. I don't even know how to
Skull
describe
bear.
Skull bear.
Skeleton wolf bear.
Skeleton wolf man bear pig lumbers in.
That's the second I saw like a glimpse of it in the trailer. That's immediately what I thought of. Was
That's what I thought of too.
Man bear pig.
But
This
that's just
giant grotesque
immature.
chimera that like slowly lumbers up to him with these giant like fuck you fangs that also screams like a woman in her death throes.
Yeah. And it's even cooler than it sounds, and it sounds metal as fuck.
I like
it's
the way that we
really
just
cool.
described it though didn't sound.
That was lame.
They're not lame, but like not as terrifying as it could be.
It was
Sure.
pretty terrifying.
A bear that grunts like a dying woman screaming. Yeah, that's pretty.
I don't know.
And its face is like all bone.
It's all bone.
I mean, to see
which
it.
was
Bone
weird
and
to
skin
me.
and blood. It's guys. It's metal and it's scary.
It's grotesque, it's intense, and it's one of the highlights of the film
Yeah.
for sure.
I loved that scene.
They
It was
had a
so
name
good.
for it when they were making the movie. Just
Jeff.
Just a little trivia. For
What's
you.
the name?
Because Paddington Bear was named after like a station in London, like a train station or whatever. They named it after one that's like rough around the edges called Homerton. So the bear's name is Homerton.
Homerton.
Yes.
That makes it even
That makes it even. Oh my god.
Really, I don't love that.
Homerton?
I would never. Anyway, one reason why maybe this explains why Zane, you might not have cared about it.
Sure.
Definitely something that was kind of a hurdle for me. I will say that getting into criticism a little bit. One reason to me why the movie might have struggled ratings wise, and one reason why there's kind of a hurdle for me to get into it was I'm not big on Natalie Portman.
No, no.
I don't think any of us are really big on Natalie
Right,
Portman.
I don't think any of us are, and I don't think most people are at this point. But the idea of like going in and seeing a Natalie Portman-led action movie was kind of a hurdle for me, and I feel like I never really cleared that hurdle.
I completely agree.
Although I enjoy a lot of what the movie was, the main character that Natalie Portman played never got to be super interesting or super compelling, or even someone I really rooted for.
Well,
I do think the movie did do a good job. Like, I do agree with what you said there, but I liked the way the movie like did the what was it, the like time skips, and you got to learn like retroactively like about their marriage
that is
and stuff. That made me care a little bit more about the character.
I
I
thought.
thought.
Oh,
I was
sorry.
just gonna say I really liked the way like that like it was a different way for the movie to kind of unfold and made it more interesting.
Yeah, to an extent, like kind of like Edge of Tomorrow played off of hatred of Tom Cruise in that movie for comedy. I think this movie did. I don't think it intentionally did this, but for me personally, it did something similar with Natalie Portman's character in that I didn't like her. I wasn't really super sympathetic with her. Like I was still compelled by her journey, but the more the movie progresses, the more you learn about her as a person. You kind of start realizing that, you know, she is not really the best person around. She's a morally complex character. She's done some things that are kind of shitty. Kind of really fucking shitty.
She's flawed, for sure.
She's flawed. Yeah, she's definitely flawed. And it was kind of like one of those things I thought about. I was like, Natalie Portman would so fucking do that in real life.
Whoa.
Wow.
We got some real Natalie Portman haters in here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that to me the going back and forth in the timeline didn't really do a whole lot for me until they got to sort of a reveal, kind of midway in the movie. Mm-hmm. They got to reveal about Natalie Portman's relationship with her husband and how it might have been strained a little bit. But to me, like at that point, I actually wish they would have now done a little bit more with that, with like her guilt. So partway through the movie, I think the movie kind of lays its thesis out, which is that sort of this idea of transformation and this idea of like sort of self-destruction.
Self-destruction is a big theme of this movie.
Yeah, which is what I think was really like kind of the meat and bones of the movie's like background, like premise. Like, so at one point they're talking about how like, well, why do we, like, they're asking, like, is this a suicide mission? And they say, no, it's more self-destructive. And then they talk about how, like, it's kind of coded into people to sort of destroy aspects of themselves, like, kind of to self-destruct. And that's kind of a horrifying process, but in the process of that, you make something new, which is kind of ironically what The Shimmer is doing. So it starts to feel like a commentary on, like violent change and like self-destructive change, which I think was interesting, and it ties into some of Natalie Portman's backstory in the movie. Like,
she had an affair.
Yeah,
like self-destructed her marriage.
Like, sure, we'll get into spoilers there, and it ties into.
Wow. We already are so deep. It doesn't fucking matter. We already said spoilers. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
We're too far in the Shimmer now.
Exactly.
We're too far in the Shimmer.
We've got to go through instead of going back.
Right, go to the lighthouse and get to the coast.
Okay, so it ties into like how Natalie Portman's like sort of affair kind of spurred on her husband's like self-destructive behavior, and now that's spurring on her own like kind of more self-destruction. And so I think that that's an interesting thing they kind of touched on, but I wish they went further. Like in that sense, the movie kind of lacked, to me, some of the sophistication of Ex Machina. Because I think Ex Machina was better able to kind of explore more in terms of like what the background questions and what the background ideas behind the scenario. With that, you know, it was a lot of it was taking like the Turing test, right?
Yeah,
that's what they call it.
Yeah,
to see if like a robot is sentient, like can you tell the difference between it and a human? And in that they kind of step it up and they talk about, you know, what's human, what's AI, all that. Well, with this, I think they struggle a little bit.
Well, Ex Machina was also incredibly focused. It had one goal in its mind, and I mean, there's 3 actors in the entire fucking movie, and there's one set. Well, 2, but whatever.
It's very tightly wound.
It's very, very tightly wound, and this is a much bigger film on like multiple levels. And yeah, regardless, those things are going to get to an extent lost in translation. But I understand what you're saying, and I do agree to an extent. But a lot of the issues, or not issues, but things that they touched on in the climax of the film, especially, really resonate with me. Like the whole existential terror, like the loss of self, the fear of like losing your own personal essence. That is what really like struck me more than anything else in this movie.
Where would you say the movie really dives into that?
At the climax, like the very end.
What, with the putty?
Jesus Christ, Nick. Jesus fucking Christ.
Marietta coming out. Oh, the putty.
Because the thing is, I feel like the whole loss of self thing is kind of present throughout.
It is present throughout, but it comes to a head in the climax of the film. At least it did for me personally when I watched it.
That was by far my favorite part. Like that, I
fucking knew it would be.
2001
I was
Space
just gonna say,
Odyssey.
it started to remind me.
Which
of
I mean, I
2001.
loved. It had it split up the movie just like 2001, where it did the black with the white text, and I loved that. And then once it got to the end, I'm like, this is like fucking 2001, and I loved it.
So that you're talking about towards the end, when pretty much at the end, where Natalie Portman sort of comes face to face with kind of the essence of the shimmer.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
Here's a question: do you guys think that the shimmer was left ambiguous enough? Would you rather it have been left more ambiguous, less ambiguous?
Personally, I mean, again, this is me being informed for reading the book, because the book was much, much, much more ambiguous than the movie. When it got to the end scene and then the alien presence, life form, whatever you want to call it, personifies itself in a human form, I was like, oh, fuck. Like, it's really going to, be on the nose and be like, oh, I'm the big bad villain, I'm the end boss. But it didn't do that, which I was really happy. So if they would have tried to, logically explain more of what was happening, I think that, for me, would have taken a lot away from the film.
I think it was perfectly ambiguous enough. I don't think they needed any more information, and I feel like if they didn't give any, if they gave less, then I would have been, disappointed. So I was really satisfied with the ending of this.
That's fair. Kyle? Zane?
No, I think that it was ambiguous enough at the end, except me and Zane were talking, and again, spoilers, but fuck it. Is I'm a little curious about what happened to Jennifer Jason Leigh's character.
Yeah, what the fuck happened?
Sorry, which one is Jennifer Jason?
Well, yeah,
I know it
that's
turned into the
putty
Kingdom of
version
the
of
Crystal
her, though.
Skull, but
No, it wasn't the party version of it.
But her eyes were missing.
Yeah, before when
and she turned into that putty, so I was just assuming that was the the
when Natalie
putty.
Portman came down the passage, she was talking to herself or whatever. Her face was she was looking up,
And her face was all swirly.
Yeah, she didn't have eyes or anything.
I think that's
boy.
the questions for the audience.
Well, what do you mean?
what
What are you curious about?
okay, so
how did she get to be that way?
The first Oscar Isaac is sitting there blown up because he blows himself up, and then the other one walks onto the screen or whatever, right? There's a version of her, her blood flies into the weird billowy thing or whatever, and then there's a second version of her, right, that holds that phosphorus grenade or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So what happened to the first version of Jennifer Jason Leigh?
That was the first version you saw.
That was it?
She was assimilated by it. So again, this is getting into theory territory versus fact of what we saw on the film itself. But a lot of things with the duplicates, the replicas, they mimic the host. You see that at the end. Well, not the host, but they mimic what they're recreating.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Just like with Natalie Portman's character. So what we know about Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, she has cancer. She's the one that brings up the whole self-destruction premise.
Yeah.
Even when she even says this wants annihilation. That's imitating her. It is it's combined with her into her body, just like the worms and the one dude and the thing. So it's taking what she wants, what she thinks is going to happen, and personifies it by blowing her the fuck up.
I can get behind that.
So, anyway,
This is one of the things I fucking love about this movie because you can talk about these things. You're not just oh yeah, when they shot the dude and he died, that was fucking sick. You know?
But I do gotta say, I thought that her character was one of the most interesting to me throughout the movie. And I was expecting a little more to come out of that.
Yeah.
Not literally out of her, because plenty came out of her.
Exactly.
But I don't know, she was a character that I was really interested in the whole. I think she was the most interesting out of the 5 that went in there. And I don't know, I expected there to be more with her
Of
at
a
the end.
conclusion for her? Yeah.
What we've been saying this whole time, I've been picking up, kind of goes back to what I clunkily said at the beginning. Whenever I said, they can't pick between action or horror or sci-fi. To expand on that, which we've kind of been, it's more so I feel like this movie could have been longer and could have. I guess I wish it would have delved more into all of those things. I think that's the problem.
I don't know. Okay, so coming up, we're going to get into pretty definitive ending spoilers.
I mean, we're in definitive ending spoilers.
Why do we keep saying spoilers?
I don't know. It's no one cares.
Exactly.
All right,
We've already established it, but for a movie that people haven't seen going into, it is.
So here's the thing: the reason why I'm a little bit skeptical of your interpretation, Dan, is I think something that I see in a lot of movies like this, a lot of movies where the characters seem fucked the whole time, and then they manage to get out of it. So like Natalie Portman at the end, she's sort of face down with this like mirrored version of herself.
It's basically a big like metallic purple.
Yeah, it's mirroring her, and it's
mirroring all her movements. Yeah,
yeah,
and it's slowly like developing more of her form.
It's slowly becoming her.
Yeah, it's slowly becoming her.
You get the sense that this is what happened to her husband, and that the version of her husband that left the Shimmer isn't the original, because we see him on a videotape at the lighthouse blow himself up with a phosphorus grenade. Yep. And then you see the copy was the one filming. So apparently the copy, and for some reason the copy has slicked back hair. And then,
just so you could tell the difference.
That was a little bit.
Also, one has a southern accent and the other doesn't.
Yeah, I was real confused about that because he didn't talk very much during the movie. So then in that last scene when he's talking, like that was a weird acting choice.
Yeah,
it's really strange.
That's because maybe the one that blew itself up is the alien because it's secretly from Alabama, and that's how you know.
Okay. But
anyway,
so here's the thing.
Annihilation.
Here's the thing. So after Natalie Portman contends with that and destroys the Shimmer and gets out, and in the very last sort of legs of the movie, you get the sense that she goes in to talk to her not husband, and she asks him if he is who he is, and then he says probably not, or he says not really, and then you get the sense that both of them are actually the Shimmer, or they're. But the thing that doesn't make total sense to me about that is that, so if the thing is that the Shimmer is assimilating people, then why does it need the metallic copy end boss that came out at the end? Because Natalie Portman left.
Yeah.
And she was assimilated anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, that's also suspecting that this is just one entity unto itself, and it's not multiple alien entities that are cropping up from the whole Prism DNA merging of everything.
Right. But I guess the thing is like, so what's the deal here? I guess that's the one place I'm confused. Like, so Oscar Isaac's character
is
the original that went in blows itself up, but the copy leaves. But with Natalie Portman's character, the copy is blown up, but the original leaves. And yet at the end, we're left with the impression that doesn't matter.
She knows that her DNA is being altered the entire time.
And we know that. We know that the DNA is being altered.
And we know that she knows.
It must have different ways of assimilation.
But I guess those are very different things, though. Creating a copy from scratch and assimilating the DNA. If you can do one, why do the other?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So that to me is a little bit of a hole in the ending.
I mean, that's also a plot. This you can literally get out of any writing trope what you want to apply to this movie, but that's also applying human logic to extraterrestrial, alien type logic superstition with that.
That's fair.
It's very open to interpretation. There's a lot of different ways you can read it. Like at the end scene, when we think the altered version of Natalie Portman's character, she has the Ouroboros tattoo on her wrist, which she's never had in any other scenes. Oscar Isaac's character had the Ouroboros tattoo in the flashbacks before he went in the Shimmer. The soldier with the worms in his stomach that blew up and was all over the fucking place, he had a Ouroboros tattoo on him as well. So
that's weird. But I guess so. Before I move away from that point, I guess the only thing I would say is that I'm really, with a movie like this, you expect that twist ending. You know what I mean? You expect the ending where it seems like they got it, but they didn't.
But it's,
you know what I mean?
It's not, to me, it wasn't even a twist. Well, it was I already knew
whether it's a twist or not. The point is, We can call it a twist.
Whatever. I'm the bad boy of the group.
All right, so whether it's a twist or not, the point is you kind of expect that thing where it's like, we thought we got it, but the alien won. You know, that's in like Life that came out last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's in so many movies. The Thing doesn't do that. It's sort of
The Thing has the best ending of any movie ever.
Wow.
Sure.
There, I fucking said it.
But I guess what I'm saying is that The Thing has a better approach to that, where it's like, we don't think Kurt Russell's been assimilated.
Let's not go,
Right.
because I'll go down a rabbit hole.
Let's not go into the rabbit. But what I'm saying is,
It left it ambiguous.
Yeah.
Perfectly ambiguous.
I don't think this left anything ambiguous.
No.
It just says, no, the Shimmer got him, and I guess the
got him.
the problem with that for me is I would have honestly rather she just got the Shimmer, or it had I didn't need that twist.
Well,
I didn't need that last moment where I would have preferred either she comes back and she comes back and burns him the other part of the Shimmer alive, and then it's like, no more Shimmer.
Oh, that would have been tight.
Or she
Lit that
burns.
place on fire.
don't
Wow,
agree with this at
that
all.
goes completely against the themes and
No,
tone of the
I mean
movie.
like herself and it, like both of them. Or they don't beat the Shimmer. The Shimmer just leaves. I guess I don't need that. We got the Shimmer, but we didn't get the Shimmer because the Shimmer's in us. You know?
But I mean, like, part of this is it's a violent change that creates something new. So, like, to me, this ending, like, brings up a lot of questions of, like, who are these people now? Like, there's something new, but they're a copy of something before. They do know of each other. So it's like, what memories do they have? How will they behave? Like,
Well,
what have
she
they
wasn't
become?
a copy. I mean, she was still herself.
Whatever, bro.
That's a fair point.
Yeah,
I'll say that's a fair
yeah.
point. I don't know.
It's just it was interesting to me. I enjoyed this movie quite a bit because I'm a huge sucker for like sci-fi movies, horror movies, or particularly a meshing between the two. And I just keep getting burned real hard. I went to Covenant. I went to Life. I go see these movies every time they come out. I'm a
What
big
was Life? I can't
It was
remember
like
that.
Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I never saw that.
It was basically
God,
Alien.
Fuck it, but bad.
It was Alien meets Gravity, not as good as either one.
yeah.
Yeah.
WolfPunch review
Yeah.
of Life.
And that was it.
That was
a
8
very quick one.
seconds.
But yeah, that's fair. I'm a little skeptical of the ending, but I don't hate it. I think it
Yeah, I mean, this movie's not perfect to me. Like, we've been talking about the things that we question. I think it maybe like a little bit of the miming the putty thing could have been a little shorter.
Yeah.
But there were like the other thing that I hated was this movie. I'm torn where it does a couple jump scares, but it does jump scares right because they're not false jump
Yeah.
scares. That's my least favorite thing.
Oh, yeah. But
So like the bear sequence is really, really cool. And when you see the bear like actually attack these people, it looks great.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So it's like it bothered me that like the first two times critters attack them, it's just it's the out of nowhere like plucks
Yeah.
them away
Look,
and it's
that-
ambiguous.
did that alligator
The
just
alligator, like,
sneak up behind her
And like
rip her
apparently
backpack?
leapt and like
Yeah.
hit her back.
it leapt into the air apparently.
Yeah,
and grabbed the
grabbed
bag.
her backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Genes
like-
are being messed with. I mean, it could have. Kangaroo could have snuck in.
Yeah. So it was like
That's true.
some of that like that was disappointing.
Yeah.
Like those like jump scares, but it makes up for that in like actually having like tense sequences
Yeah.
that look good.
I will say that I think that. So one thing that they said was going to happen that I don't think happened as much as it could have is they said that the mutations got more extreme as they approached the lighthouse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was.
And
what
I-
about the crystal trees
Yeah.
and like the
Yeah.
flower people and
Yeah.
shit?
I mean
It got extreme because they were no longer living things; they were just complete mergers of different.
Right,
entities.
but I was thinking that maybe we would see some gnarlier monsters.
You want to just
Not
like,
even not monsters, but
Not-
just
yeah.
gnarlier things.
Yeah,
There
like
was-
we didn't see like what about sea creatures? You know what I mean? I was when we
that'll be in the sequel. Don't worry.
when we got to I don't want a sequel. When we got
Shark
to
squid.
when we got to the coast, I was thinking, oh my, could you imagine what could come out of the water? Like there were things like that where I wish that there might have been a little bit more.
I mean,
Well, I guess,
that's
like,
also kind of playing into one of the things.
More of the body horror stuff I thought was going to happen.
Mm.
Like, I mean, you saw that guy's intestines.
Yeah.
You saw the
Or
one
like the
chick
girl
turn into a tree.
Turn into a tree, but like, why did she turn into a tree?
Because
Nobody
she
else did?
accepted.
She just accepted she wanted to be
her
a
fate.
tree.
Yeah,
Right.
That's how the shimmer works.
Interesting.
I don't think it was like a psychological.
Interesting.
You're such a cunt.
I don't think it was like a psychological acceptance. It was more of like she decided to just sit there and like put the plant stuff inside of her.
I don't know. I kind of agree with Michael.
Yeah,
where I got like there was a willingness to.
The other two both had reasons to go onto the lighthouse. She did not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to an extent, it was her just being like, I don't care about what you guys are intending to do.
And it was a cool visual seeing like.
See, I thought she just like slapped some grass on her arm
Yeah.
at first, and then I saw her walking away, and I was
Seeing
like, oh,
plant
she's turning into
You
a
thought,
tree.
oh, she has fun like I do.
Yeah, plant grass.
Seeing plants come out of Tessa Thompson, that was cool.
But I was expecting like more like Akira stuff to happen. When they
Yeah,
got
I
closer to
think I did too.
To the
It's not a dumb fucking movie. It's
no, I mean, I'm not saying it would have been right.
But I don't
But that's
think
what I was
it's really dumb.
expecting.
Like the screaming bear was really one of the best things in the movie.
but
like,
I felt like if there was like two more beats where it was kind of like shocking, like grotesqueries, it would have pushed it too far into like a genre where that becomes the focal point of everything.
I don't think it had
Plus,
to be.
they're out of character.
I don't think it had to be grotesqueries. Like
Just like
that's a weird word. I just think like it could have been kind of neat. Like they don't all have to be aggressive. Like could you imagine just some?
You saw the
weird-
two deer, and that like reinforced the whole idea of the copies.
Are you saying you want to see a big, peaceful monster like closer to the lighthouse?
Kinda, yeah.
Lame.
Like
I would
what?
wish. I wish that like I mean,
Like
yeah,
just
there were
weird,
like crystal
weirder,
trees.
more peaceful. Not necessarily
Yeah.
peaceful, just weirder
shit.
monsters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
just a little bit
thinking
closer.
some weird shit.
They didn't all have to be like aggressive. To force stop from being redundant. They all didn't have to be like. I don't know. It's just something they could have done.
No, I agree.
I'm not necessarily. It's not like a huge problem with the movie. I just do think that as the movie got to the ending, it slows down a bit before the ending
the 2001 scene.
beat. Yeah, and I think it could have sped into that a little bit more.
It does lose a bit of steam for a little bit there. I'll give you that, but not. I guess I didn't really want to see any other critters because they're for biting. I don't want to see peaceful ones.
And it might be a strength of the movie that that it creates that kind of sense of wonder that you want to see more of what the Shimmer could do.
Sure.
Team Shimmer, guys.
Shimmer.
We can think of a better name for ourselves. Than,
I don't know if we can. I think that's pretty good.
I think WolfPunch is.
Wolf Shimmer.
Nah.
So, but I kind of want to go back to like a kind of like character Natalie Portman question. Like, how do you guys? Is there? I mean, could someone else have? Could they have given this movie to someone else?
Yeah, Amy Adams.
Emily Blunt, yeah.
Emily Blunt. There we go.
Yeah.
Emily Blunt. I honestly, Tessa Thompson.
She was, yeah.
They
she
could.
was
I mean,
good.
But she was really good. With
I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
they gave her much though. I didn't care that much about that character, but I've seen Tessa Thompson in other things.
I've seen her in other things, and I've never seen her play. I've never seen her play like a timid.
Yeah, she did
Yeah,
really well.
That was neat.
That was cool. I was thinking like other people that they could give this movie to, and Amy
Adams was the first one I thought of, and then Emily Blunt because
I think
they're always on my mind.
I see Emily Blunt more as someone. I think Emily Blunt and Tessa Thompson really could have been the lead. I'm just like, so the
She's
movie.
under-
If
isn't
Amy
doing-
Adams was in this, it would have been too much
Natalie
like
Portman.
Arrival.
I don't think it would have been very much like Arrival at all.
You just always cast shade on Amy Adams. I don't want
I
to
do.
hear it.
I
And
do.
you were bad mouthing The Thing earlier, and you know that's like my favorite. But shut up.
I guess I'm saying like it's cool that it's like a female led like sci-fi horror, but
Yeah, that was cool.
I don't think Natalie Portman was the best choice. Not both in a box office sense and in the movie sense. I
Should've
think
been
she's a
Scarlett
drag.
Johansson. That'll sell your movie.
No, not
Old
ScarJo.
ScarJo's got to fight the Shimmer today.
Yeah,
No.
just like a Ghost in the Shell. It really
Yeah.
worked for that.
No, not Scarlett Johansson.
Charlize Theron.
Because all the other...
Oh, yeah, that's not
Jessica
bad.
Chastain, I would have liked it, but I mean,
Oh,
Jessica
I just like Jessica.
Jessica Chastain would have been pretty good. I feel like she might.
Now we're just talking about actresses.
Well, no, I mean, it's like
I know.
something that does also help sell the movie. Like, but I mean, Natalie Portman, she's a big enough name, not big enough to have made this a success.
But that's the problem with that, is I think that they thought, oh well, who's a big enough name that we can like is like a big leading woman, like Natalie Portman's like, yeah, but Natalie Portman's a drag and people don't want to see her.
That's the best way to describe her performance.
The entire time I was thinking, like, I was watching it and I thought for a second that I could hear her like Jackie Onassis accent come out a few times. And I was like, maybe I'm just, or not Jackie Onassis.
She wasn't in the Jackie movie, was
she? Yeah. But her name's Onassis, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Wow, you don't know anything.
I haven't seen Jackie.
You don't know Natalie Portman's filmography?
Yeah, come on, dude. Like Star Wars.
He didn't even go see Heat with us. And that was the reason we went.
That's true.
She's a senator. I don't know.
She is a senator.
Yeah, anyway. I thought I could hear that accent coming out, but then I was like, no, I think I'm just going crazy. I'm too deep in the Shimmer, guys.
In the Shimmer.
I'm too deep.
You came back wrong.
I didn't come back at all.
Yeah.
Personally,
Personally, I just want more 2001 Space Odyssey scenes.
I know you
that's
do,
just
Michael.
me. Because that's the greatest movie ever.
I don't know. I would actually say the movie had the appropriate amount of that kind of trippy.
Probably, but that's just my personal preference.
I think waiting till the very end for that is probably the right idea. I don't think I would have
so
liked to
does
see.
2001
Yeah,
Space
exactly.
Odyssey.
Like, could you imagine how much lamer? Could you imagine how lame the movie would be if, like, that shimmer thing that floated at the core of the lighthouse was like floating around the whole time?
No, that would be awful.
Like the smoke monster at the
That would be
Lost.
terrible.
Oh, I was going to say it would be like the eyeball monster in Big Trouble in Little China, just like floating around.
No, I like that.
No, they did it the right way. I'm just saying.
I think they did it the right way.
I just really liked that, and I could probably just watch that scene over and over again for hours.
I'm in it for Homerton. I'm going to watch it over and over again.
Yeah, no, that part was cool.
Even Zane liked that part.
Yep. Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Annihilation.
Closing thoughts?
I thought it was good. If you're a fan of sci-fi or sci-fi horror movies and you've been looking for one that doesn't blow butt, I would say give this one a watch. I had a lot of fun watching it. It's not perfect, but pretty good movie, and I want to see more movies like this. I'm glad that it got a theatrical release because I know like the studio was wussing down on it, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, like I'm shocked that Blade Runner 2049 got like the budget and release that it did, and I want to see studios take more risks on movies like these.
You have like a set group of movies that you constantly
Yeah.
It's like 3 movies.
Yeah, it's
constantly
like Logan, Blade Runner 2049, The Thing. You have to like constantly not even The Thing. Like Blade Runner.
The Thing was relevant this time.
The Thing
Well, so was
relevant.
Blade Runner. I mean,
And so was
the
Blade
genres
Runner.
and whatnot.
Come on, I didn't reference Logan the whole day. and Kurt Russell, I didn't make a single comparison, and Jennifer Jason Leigh was in the movie. I could have. They've been in 2 pictures together. I was very good the whole time.
I was very good.
You behaved yourself.
And we talked about the thing. I could have gone on a whole Russell
ruining it.
rant.
You're ruining it.
Sorry.
Russell Brand?
Russell rant. Kurt Russell rant. Shut your. You didn't even wear jeans today, Zane.
I didn't. I'm in sweatpants.
Yikes. Yeah, obviously, I really enjoyed the film a lot. To me, it felt like a high-budget A24 film. And they're the company that does, It Comes at Night, Swiss Army Man, not so much like that, but
Lady Bird.
Green Room, Lady Bird, more of like indie-type sensibilities and storytelling adapted to a more expensive blockbuster template, I guess you'd say. It tied into a lot of things that I think are really interesting, such as like the whole existential dread and psychological horror, has body horror as well. It's like checking all the boxes for me, so it's not a perfect movie. I can see Zane just like...
No, I
wish Michael was taking photos because he was just sitting there chewing on his hand. It's like, we're here to like hear the opinion on this movie of a guy in sweatpants eating his fist who was late to the movie.
Yeah, sorry.
But yeah, I would definitely recommend it if you like movies that aren't exactly straightforward action horror genre picks, I guess you'd say. It's a bit more avant-garde, and yeah, it was great. I hope it at least becomes a cult following and does better than what it is doing right now.
It won't.
Yeah, everything that Dan just said is
Real original, Michael.
yeah. It was a good movie. I
Man of
enjoyed
many
it.
words.
I mean, and just like Kyle said, I wish that more people would go see this because I think people should support good movies instead of the shit that's been coming out.
For the record, we don't beat Michael. I don't know why he talks so softly.
He's afraid that if he voices his real opinion, we're going to beat the shit out of
we
him.
We
always
threaten to
sound-
beat him when he doesn't speak.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Yazin.
Zane?
No, go ahead, yes.
No, Zane, we're going
Okay,
around
sure.
the circle.
Yeah, I didn't care about this movie at all. It wasn't entertaining. Well, I mean, parts of it were nice. Like it looked nice, I guess, except for the J.J. Abrams lens flares.
You
The
cried.
creatures? I did. I cried.
You
when I
cried
saw
when
that.
they were cutting the guy open.
I do want to say
No,
though,
I
real
didn't
quick,
cry.
What's up?
the lens flares they did bother me too, and I like lens flares because I'm like, oh, if the shimmer is supposed to be this like beautiful place, save the lens flares for that.
Well, no,
they
I
had,
was just like
lens
when they
flares in their
first showed
apartments.
like Natalie Portman's house, it looked fucking weird. Like
Yeah.
it looked strange, and I was like, why does this like shot look so weird? And then later on in the movie, when they're walking around in the shimmer, there's a house that's just like it, or that is her house, or whatever. And it was the same exact shot, and I was like, oh, I get it.
Was it?
Yeah.
I missed that.
When the house that they went into, that they got tied to the chair.
It looks really similar. I don't think it's the
because
same house.
she walks in and she does exactly what Oscar Isaac did when he
Yeah.
walked into the house. He got to the steps, he stopped, looked at the wall where the pictures were. She walked in, the framing was the same and everything. She
I
got
missed
to
that.
the steps,
Yeah.
she looked to the right, and she looked up the steps, and you thought that she was going to walk up there because he says something about how it was you, I saw you there, I recognized your face or whatever.
I think it's just.
And I don't know.
I think it's kind
what
of
that was supposed to. Come
I think
back.
it was just foreshadowing that she's gonna sort of come back the same way Oscar Isaac did.
Can we go back to where Michael said he likes lens flares?
I like lens flares. I don't
weird.
know why. I like them. They look cool.
I mean, go see this movie if you want. Don't go see it. I don't care.
Wow, glowing.
Sounds like my I, Tanya review.
Exactly.
I think this movie was good. I think definitely there were things about it, like the casting for the main. To me, the thing that going in was a drag was the idea of Natalie Portman leading this movie, and that never really goes away. It has a hero that I never really care about, and that's maybe not what this movie was going for, but it does kind of prevent some of the rewatchability for me. That said, I agree with Dan in terms of the way it sets tone is amazing. I don't often find movies scary or physically unsettling, but this movie was that. I guess I say I recommend it on that grounds. But if you aren't a fan of being
If you're a wuss,
If you like Fast and the Furious, fuck you. You're not gonna like this.
I guess I'm saying if you feel if you don't like feeling physically queasy in movies, this might kind of bring that about. But it's a good. I think it's a good take on sort of the sci-fi horror, almost in the vein of The Thing. I mean, it's not The Thing, but it's
no one here is good.
It's in that direction, and I think it's in the right direction. For me, small nitpicks, but I like it. It's a good movie. Check it out.
Cool. Annihilation.
Done. How about? Where were you about that? How do you guys feel about that title?
Oh yeah, I was telling him that I thought that the title was all wrong, and it made me think they've made too many movies because now there's too many titles used up.
Sure.
They just couldn't call it. They were like, "Fuck, what's a word? Annihilation." And I was like,
What would you have rather called it? The Shimmer?
Assimilation, or the Shimmer.
The Shimmer sounds fine.
Yeah,
I
that
think.
would have been fine. I liked the score a lot, guys.
But
I do want to say that.
But the
I
thing
didn't
is-
get
Also,
that
I like the
into it.
title, and I like.
You're just coming out of nowhere.
I forgot to mention that earlier.
it had to be called Annihilation because it had to have a tough sounding name because they were already aware
That there are
Zane noticed,
flowers and
there are too many
fine women.
flowers and too many women, so we've got to rip a Mortal Kombat title out of here.
Yeah.
That was good.
They had to make it
Good.
badass.
Well,
The shimmer sounds something gay.
Yikes.
that's a good place to end it.
Damn, Cat.
WolfPunch.